Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon and Ascendant for the month of November, if you can believe that. I hope you're well. I'm using the, what am I using here? The Night Sun Tarot. God, that took a bit of retrieving. Using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. So, let's see what's going on with you. 3 cards for Aries, please. There's the first one. We have the Page of Pentacles in your recent past. Current energy. There we go. We have the Judgment card in reverse. That's interesting. The Judgment card's been on my mind quite hard recently. And what's coming towards you is the 8 of Cups. At the bottom of the deck we have the Page of Swords, with the Lovers and the High Priestess sitting behind it. So the Page of Swords for me is it's about a mental expansion, right? Traditionally, it's a card of a messenger, and it speaks about information coming to you in some way or another, you know, and that can be by learning, you know, actively going out and teaching yourself something, and that would sit very nicely also with the Page of Pentacles. But it can be about the kind of information that just sort of drops into your head, you know, the sort of thing that I'm talking about, right, where your intuition speaks, or, you know, or you come across information another way, and the important thing is that everything changes in light of that new information, whether you've gone out looking for it deliberately or whether it's just fallen into your lap. Now, the fact that the Lovers card and the High Priestess are sitting behind this makes me think that we're leaning more towards the more esoteric form of, you know, acquiring knowledge. It is intuition, it is connection with your higher self. It is opening up and allowing something to come through for you. And the fact that the Lovers card is the bridge between the two speaks to the possibility of a big change coming up, and one that is self-directed. The Lovers card is the card of Gemini, but it speaks of a choice. It speaks of big decisions that need to be made, and often that isn't the decision itself. It is the fact of making the decision. It is not trying to hide. It is not trying to escape from things necessarily. It is an acceptance of what is, and a conscious decision about what you are going to do in order to shift a situation that you might not be comfortable with at this point. So let's get some clarifiers. Let's see what's going on here with this set of cards. Page of Pentacles. Thank you. We have 2. We have the Queen of Swords and we have the 10 of Swords. Although strictly, they actually came out the other way around. 10 of Swords and Queen of Swords. Tell me about the Judgment in reverse, please. Thank you. We have the Chariot. Kind of came out sideways, and so I'm going to honour that and allow it to sit that way. And we have the Emperor. There is the card of Aries right there. Tell me about the 8 of Cups. Thank you. We have the Temperance card, Sagittarius. And we've got the Knight of Cups coming to meet it. We have the Justice card at the bottom of the deck. Now, that is the card of Libra in the Major Arcana, and it speaks to, amongst other things, balance in the same way that the Temperance card does. But it speaks of so much more too. It speaks about a sense of natural justice, right? Things coming right in some way or another. It also speaks to karma. And, you know, that could be potentially the karma that you are, you know, creating for yourself at this point. And let us not forget that karma is effectively a neutral thing. It is merely consequences of one's actions or inactions. If you're interested in that, there is a video on the channel, I'll link it below, that I think explains it better than anyone else I've ever seen. But for you more specifically, I do feel that this sense of knowing where you are going is something that is not knowing where you are going, but knowing that you are going is something that's quite important to Aries. The fact that you don't quite know where that is yet, and so it is difficult to kind of saddle up your horse and gallop off in that direction, seems to be something that is bothering you a lot. You know, I'm looking at the fact that Justice here in this card is blindfolded. And I'm looking at the two towers in the background. Now, one could say that one is slightly closer than the other, but actually I feel like they're at the same distance, but the black tower is taller. I don't know if that's showing up on the camera terribly well, and it feels like there's a sense of well, at worst I would say it was a sense of foreboding, but actually I think it's kind of dialed back from there. It isn't a big doom kind of feeling. It is an uncertainty feeling. It is, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know perhaps what the point of this is that I am going through here at the moment. And nevertheless, I am being called to process it, work through it, and head off in a direction. But it's like standing in the middle of the compass and going, well, what I don't even know what degree I'm supposed to be heading off in. And that's important, because we know, just being out by 1 degree is enough to have you miles away from where you're supposed to be further down the line. And yet, Aries, we can't lose the fact that this High Priestess is sitting here in the background, almost directing proceedings. So when we start here, in your recent past, we've got that Page of Pentacles, and like I said, both the Page of Pentacles and the Page of Swords have this sense of learning, right? Both pages, they're both the initiatory stages of the court hierarchy in the suits that they represent, so Pentacles and Swords respectively. And there's a newness about those. The thing that differentiates them for me from the Aces is that the Aces are profound new starts. They are the things that you have not experienced before, right? It's pure potential, and so you can do with it whatever you will, because it's potential. It can be molded into literally anything. When you're at a page level, it's almost like taking something that you already have and doing something with it, right? It's a change of direction in some sort of way. So with the Page of Pentacles, it could be a change of material direction. So maybe possibly starting a new job. No, new job's more Ace of Pentacles kind of stuff. Tidying up your finances, right? That sort of thing. Maybe streamlining your spending and stuff like that. Just spending a little less and saving a little bit more, right? We could see that sort of thing there with the Page of Pentacles. It could be about just getting your affairs in order, just more generally, right? In preparation for some sort of movement that is coming through. But the Page of Pentacles also speaks to me about value, because the way that the page is usually presented is that he has a big pentacle that is in front of him, and he's looking at it with this sense of wonder, and it's almost like rediscovering something, being like, this is the important thing, actually, this is the thing that really means something, and I'm going to focus on this, and I'm going to do something with that. And we see that, played out through the court hierarchy later on. But in the Night Sun Tarot, the pentacle is actually around the neck of the small boy, and he's crouched, and he looks like he's, for me, he actually looks, because of the way that his body language is, the way that he's sitting there on that card, it looks like he's looking back at where he's been, but he's getting ready to sort of bounce off in another direction. The pentacle is safely around his neck. He's found it. He's owned it. He's seen that it's something very, very important to him, and he's put it around his neck, and he's like, right, I'm going to wear this now so I don't drop it. I don't have it rolling down the hillside or anything like that. But I'm getting ready to move. And because it's pentacles, it is going to be slow. It's not a suit that I think fire signs enjoy particularly. I mean, it's not as bad as water sometimes, but it can feel a little bit like trying to wade through quicksand, But it's asking for diligence. It's asking for slow steps. It's asking you not to bolt, is what it's doing. And this is in your recent past. And it's clarified quite interestingly by this Ten of Swords and the Queen of Swords underneath here, right? And so when we combine all of these cards together, the message that is coming through is one that is asking you to make sure that you are processing everything as you go. You know, if it's something that Aries are known for, it is, you know, pointing in a direction and going off. You are the first sign in the zodiac, right? There's always that spark of initiation, and associated with that we have a sense of adventure and you know, tackling the unknown. And at points in your life that has been exactly that. It's been exciting, it's been adventurous, it's been something that you've really enjoyed doing. But there is something about this situation which is very, very different. There is something about this situation that does speak to a sense of completion, because we do have it here with the Ten of Swords, but we have it as a difficult and painful accumulation of events. But the fact that the Queen is here, and actually even with the Page of Swords as well, it's asking you to make sure that you know what it is you have experienced and why. There are no shortcuts when you've got Pentacle energy showing up. And I think the fact that everything feels so different is speaking to the way that you are moving out of your default patterning and into something different. It has to be done differently in order for that to be the case. And the Queen of Swords for me is the step before the King. The King's Aquarius energy, but he in this narrative that I have about the way that the court hierarchy deal with each other, you know, the page discovers the information. The knight transmits the information through whatever sense that applies. And it's brought to the feet of the Queen. And the Queen will sit and go through it all, and she will be that discerning energy of working out whether something is true or not, and whether it is useful or not. And I think it's quite interesting in this Queen of Swords here that little thing down there, I don't know if it's coming up terribly well on the camera, is a mask that she has dropped. It feels like there's a huge shift going on inside of you right now, where you're starting to see yourself differently, and maybe the way that you have actually always seen yourself is coming more to the surface than it has done before. You know, there's an awareness that there's a way that other people see you, and to a degree, perhaps you've always played to that in some sort of way. This mask on the floor has a very dramatic look to it. You know, the mouth is open and the eyes are wide. But when we compare it to how the Queen is presenting here, she's not impressed. She doesn't look happy about what she's discovered. You know, her eyes are narrowed and she's got a slight frown on her face. But it's not going to stop her. You know, in some ways it could well be the fact that you are in pain, and that is okay. And rather than seeking to, you know, just fire away from that, you know, just bolt off in a different direction and go, well, fuck this, I don't need this, I can go do something else. It's like, actually, there's something really important here for me, and I don't like it. But as Jung said, like, all the tools you need to grow are in the places that you don't want to look. And maybe those places are being highlighted to you now. I mean, we've just had a full moon in Aries. As I record this. And maybe you've had to see things that you just were not really comfortable with. And maybe those things were about you, but maybe those things were about other people too. You know, Ten of Swords can be betrayal, it can be being let down by people, it can be treated in such a way as you are left for dead by these people. But I mean, personally, I think the Swords is the most challenging suit in the tarot, and there's a certain amount of relief that comes from hitting the 10. when everything is exposed and when you are able to process what all of that might mean. Well, we'll get to it because it's coming out here, but you know, that sense of completion, from there you're going to start off at another ace. You're going to load up, but for now you need to process what has gone on. So we come to the Judgment card in the reverse for your current energy, and that I find quite interesting. It's very, very rare that that card comes up in reverse. Very rare. I actually can't think of a time on the channel where that particular card has ever come up reversed. It might have done. Got a brain injury after all. But it's certainly less common than with other cards. And you have a trifecta of major arcana cards here in your present energy. So you've got this Judgment in reverse. You also have this Chariot card, which is Cancer. Like I said, it's kind of coming out slightly sideways. And you have the Emperor card. Now, Emperor is Aries, obviously, and so this is you. But the Judgment card, for a second, start with that. It can speak variously of lots of different things. It can speak of the judgment that you feel from other people. It can be the judgment that you have directed towards other people too, or you're sitting in judgment of other people, and perhaps you've been doing some of that. But it also talks about things coming up, things coming round for almost like a second go. And the interesting thing is here that it absolutely is not coming up for a second chance. You know, there's a finality about that card there that is quite interesting. Because whether it's the way that you've responded to other people's judgments of you, or whether you are becoming slightly aware that you do judge other people, and that's not terribly helpful, not for you, because it's a form of projection. And if you're looking for a route into shadow work, then sitting with the judgments that you make of other people is a really good place to start. This is ending. Whatever it is ending, and it's ending in the here and now. It's not, November, December. It's here. And so what you take from this, how you grow from this, how you learn from this, in the here and now, is the most important thing. And you must be willing to sit with that in a way that possibly feels deeply uncomfortable. Now, the fact that the Chariot is showing up in a slightly sideways position means that the goals aren't set. Like, you don't know where you're going, and you don't know if you'll be victorious. Speaking of shadow work, the Chariot for me is a card of shadow work, generally speaking. Not as it presents here in the Triple Goddess, but it's worth bearing in mind anyway. If it were to show up in the reverse, then that would be an absolute halt to everything. There is no forward movement, there is no success, there is no victory implied here in this direction. And we could see that possibly with the finality of what's going on here. But it didn't show up in the reverse. It showed up slightly wonky. Success, determination, goal setting, goal achieving, that sort of thing. An absolute loss of those. No success. No determination, possibly, no drive forwards. I feel like it's getting to the point where it's going to show up in the upright very, very soon. But for now, there is a sense of uncertainty that must be navigated by you. And I feel like the themes that you're dealing with, and this will be different for each of you, it's going to manifest in very different ways, is more about how you process what is going on now before you start heading off in a different direction. Like, that feels very, very strong. Oh, that is a Judgment card again. We've got the Hermit card. It's a card of Virgo, but it is talking about deep introspection. It's not something, Aries, that generally you are renowned for, right? Not in the same way as, say, Virgo is, or a different sign. There's a solitary aspect to the Hermit, and I think it's quite interesting that it's coming up here with this Judgment card in reverse, because it really does bring everything back to you. It means it doesn't actually matter what is going on outside of you. It doesn't matter who is judging you. It matters who you are judging, and if you are doing that, that's something that needs to be sat with. But also processing what seems to be distinct finality here is really important. Now, the major arcana ends with the World, and that's an ending right there, right? That's the end of a big cycle, and it's interesting that it's not that's come up. The Judgment card is the card before the World, and so generally it's that point, day of judgment, day of reckoning, where is everything that I've done enough? Is it sufficient to move on to the end stage where I get to graduate from this? The fact that the Judgment card is in reverse says no, not quite. You're not quite ready to leave this yet. You're not quite ready to start moving forwards. The Emperor card, which is the card of Aries there, it's a very distinct, very authentic presentation of your energy, means there's a lot here to get hold of, and it feels to me like it's internal. There's Emperor card. Strength. There's growth to be done. There's growth to be engaged with before you get to the Ace of Pentacles, before you get to start anew. Look at that. We've got the Nine of Cups behind it and the Ten of Swords behind that. You're in a really difficult position at the moment, Aries. But it's not for nothing. Taking a nihilistic view of what is occurring with you at the moment would be a very dangerous thing, because there's enough fucking major arcana here. There's 5 major arcana in your present energy. Judgment in reverse, the Chariot sideways, the Emperor, Strength, and the Hermit. There are a lot of forces at work on you at the moment, and all of them are pushing you towards personal development, personal growth, and it's all internal. So like I said, it doesn't matter what people are doing to you, actually, as unpleasant as that might be as a thought to have to deal with, because we like to be able to apportion blame. We like to be able to say, I behaved well and this person behaved badly, and have everybody else in the world go, yes, you're correct. What a bastard that person is. But actually, as this situation has presented to you, that is not what this is about. Right? This is about realizing that what you've experienced is, actors sent by the universe to fulfill a particular purpose for you, to show you a particular thing about yourself and about the way that you respond to things, and for you to grow and evolve past the default. It's a huge checkpoint energy for you. And if you are feeling a little bit like you are drowning under everything, I'm not fucking surprised, because there's a lot of major arcana here and literally nothing in your present energy, which is minor arcana, which is about what you're doing with it. And the fact is, you're not supposed to be doing anything with this at this point. It's all about going within. It's all about working out how you feel about things and what you think about things. And maybe your thinking needs a bit of adjusting in places. Maybe you're internalizing a little bit too much of what other people are telling you. The movement isn't ready to happen yet, because you aren't fully baked. You're a cake that's partway risen in the oven. If we take it out now, the whole thing's going to collapse. If you run away now, the whole thing will collapse. It's not an easy energy, and I don't in any way envy this for you. But I do know that what is coming is going to be a considerable improvement from where you are, because what we've got coming towards you in November is the Eight of Cups. And I really, really like this not just this particular depiction of the Eight of Cups, but also the fact that it's here for you at all. Because the symbolism is actually vaguely similar to that in Justice, right? In her hand she's got the scales, right? And justice is being served, right? There's an equilibrium happening. Things are being pulled into balance, but it is for justice and the bigger archetype of justice to do that. In this card, those scales are around your neck. They've been pulling your head forwards for far too long, Aries, with the weight of everything that you have been carrying, you know, and we've talked about this a lot. But there are a lot of Aries who've been struggling with abandonment issues, which is news to a lot of Aries people, but nevertheless it's still there, it's still happening. You know, we see that represented by the Four of Cups. But what I really like about this is that these cups are all falling over, and whatever they contained is turning into smoke, and it is going, right? And there is a natural sense that as that happens, the weight that has been pulling on your neck and on your shoulders and pulling your head forwards is going to diminish, and you are going to be able to stand up straighter and stand up taller. Now, the Eight of Cups is about emotionally leaving something behind, and that prefix there of emotional is extremely important, because as we know, it is possible to leave a situation that has hurt us and carry the emotions that go along with that for decades afterwards. And it informs everything that we do, you know, literally judging the future by what we have experienced in the past, even if in the past our faulty thinking, you know, had us perceive a situation in a particular way when actually in reality it was probably slightly different. But there comes a point where you literally cannot shoulder that burden any longer, and this Eight of Cups here coming towards you in November is a really good indication that the load is starting to lessen necessarily, because if you carry on bending over much more, your forehead's going to be on your knees, and that's not a place for Aries to be. We've got Sagittarius energy here with the Temperance card, but we've also got the Knight of Cups. Now, this is really fascinating to me, because everything about what is coming towards you in November is about an elevation, right? It's about a lessening of the weight, a lessening of the load, and a lessening of the burden for you. These energies are much lighter. Very heavy here, and probably quite heavy in your recent past too, but in November everything's starting to shift, and it's not because people around you are behaving better, it's not because, you know, the situation that you've been dealing with all of this time is suddenly alleviated. It is because you are completely changing the way that you perceive this, and that will by extension change the way that you respond to it. Because, you know, we've actually got some movement here with this Knight of Cups. Now, the Temperance card, like I said, like the Justice card, is very much about balance and temperance and moderation, right? It's taking a moderate view of everything. And it also speaks about healing and forgiveness. You know, when the load is lifted from your heart, when your neck is not almost breaking by the weight of all of the emotional stuff that you're dealing with, right? You can stand up a little straighter, you can dip your toe in the water, right? You can be, I am coming to a place of healing. And it's Sagittarius energy, and the thing with this card is it's an alchemical process. So we're taking fire, we're taking pain, we're taking that burns, and we're transmuting it into something that you can actually use. We're talking about life lessons here, and I hate to say it, but the most valuable ones are the ones that fucking burn the most. And November sees you putting it all in the right place in your head, in my opinion. That's how I'm reading it here. And refusing to carry around the burden of things that are holding you back. You know, now the way that these burdens will manifest themselves will be different for each of you, but I would imagine that there are issues about, you know, the way that you see yourself, or the way that you see the rest of your life going. You know, maybe it's even issues of trust and things like that are, you know, kind of coming to the fore and allowing themselves to be seen by you. You know, if you don't trust anyone, if you don't invest in anyone, if you over-invest in someone sometimes, you know. This Pisces card of the Knight of Cups feels like it's an amelioration. It feels like your heart is opening up, where at times in the past, if you had gone through something similar to this, you would have closed up. You'd have been like, fuck 'em, never mind, like, I'm off. But the pain, the wounding would have travelled with you. Not so this time. You know, the Knight of Pentacles, the Knight of Cups and the Temperance card are actually appear to be travelling towards each other to meet in the middle. And if that is not a beautiful symbolic representation of the act of temperance in and of itself, then I don't know what is. I am not saying that you necessarily will be going around forgiving everybody right, left and centre, but I think it might be useful if you tried, because we don't forgive for other people, we forgive so that we lessen the burden on ourselves. It's an act of kindness to ourselves to forgive, in order that we might be able to put things down or allow things to evaporate out of our Eight of Cups. I mean, mic drop. Fuck me, I've just seen what's at the bottom of the deck as well. We've got the Ten of Wands. You see that? 10 of Wands at the bottom of the deck, and the Knight of Cups was the card that came out. There are lots of ways in which your burden could be alleviated, Aries, and pretty much all of them revolve around other people not being bastards, or situations kind of, you know, if you owe money to people, like those institutions taking their foot off your throat and all that sort of thing. But none of those ways that things could be alleviated would result in your growth. None of them. Because it's all external. And your path is internal, at least for the next 6 weeks, I would say. It is about really sitting with yourself and working out, just as the Queen of Swords had you doing there, what is important and what is not. What are you holding on to and what can be released? Because although there's a conscious aspect to what is released, as you open up and you begin the process of perhaps forgiving other people, but almost certainly forgiving yourself, it's almost like a domino effect. And where things were hard and where things were burdensome, actually a lot of the stuff takes care of itself. This sort of action is more than the sum of its parts. It's like it's like getting a really knotted ball of wool, right? And you start untangling it. And, you know, you go meter by meter, and you're starting to get a long thread coming out of it. And then by the time you get like into the centre of it, it's not knotted anymore, because it's all been kind of woven in. And as you've unknotted the outer bit of it, it's kind of coming apart in and of itself. It's nowhere near as much effort. It's nowhere near as much burden as you thought it would be. You just had to start. And I think that's where you are now. But I think where you will be at the end of November is with a nice orderly ball of wool. Everything's going to feel much lighter, even though you haven't necessarily moved an inch, to be honest. I think with the Knight of Cups there'll be a slow movement. But movement externally isn't important. It's the internal movements that are really highlighted for you this month. And I think it's about time that you started to feel better, you know. I think you deserve that. And on the other side of this process, you will deserve that. In that sense that deserving applies, you know. You will have earned it. There we go. But more than that, you will be feeling it. And I can see you being a lot kinder to yourself than you have been of late. Yeah. And just as an aside, if you know you feel like you have been being kind to yourself, but you've been pretty ratty with other people, then you're not being as kind to yourself as you think you are, because that rattiness, that frustration, is with yourself, not actually with other people. Alright, I'm going to go over to Vimeo now, so if you would like to join me over there, I'm going to dig into what's going on here a little deeper. You are very welcome to join me. The link is down in the description box. Obviously, if you're a member of my circle community, you'll have access to all of that already, so for no extra cost. So you can come and join me over there if you would like. The link is in the description box for that too. Yeah, this next 6 weeks are really important, Aries, and it's not a time to take shortcuts. I don't think that you will, to be honest. I don't think it's possible with what you've got going on and what you need to get your head around. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, okay? So, know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.